Hello guys, my name is Patrick Manson, and today I am going to talk about data frames. Data frames is very important because as an R programmer, you need to know how to handle data frames. So when you say a data frames, what is a data frame? A data frame is just like an object with rows and columns. It is just a bit like matrix. So the rows contain different observations, and this one most of the time they call it cases, and then the columns also might contain different variables, of which we sometimes we call it field. So now the data can be either it can be calendar dates, it can be factor levels for categorical variables. Like for example, we have male, female. It can also have like gender. For gender, it could also be in a form of how do we call it, logical variables, logical variables which we have true or false. It can be categorical variables and so many other stuff. So let me show you how it is done. So for example, when you in the ideal way, this is how a data frame is supposed to be before we actually import it in Excel, but it is not in all cases. So here you can see that the field name are having character variables, the area is having continuous variables, the slope is having continuous variables, the vegetation is having categorical variables, of which we have with different levels, which we have glassland, arable, meadows, crops, and then this one too have continuous variables. This is having logical variables in which we have true or false. This is also having continuous variables. Basically, this is how the ideal way we should have a data before we import it, but it is not in all cases. For example, let's look at this. Those who have a little experience in experimental design. So maybe, for example, you have an experiment with treatments, and the treatments are just control, preheated, and then pre-chill, of which we have 4 measurements per treatment. So in the ideal, like it is like in an ideal way, this is how in just representing this is how it is supposed to be done. But this is not cool. This is not cool because when you do it like this, when you import a data like this into R, it makes it difficult to categorize them. So the best thing you have to do is use Excel to arrange it very, very well, so that maybe, for example, you need to have you need to have how do we call it? A good way to do that is maybe, for example, when you use pivot tables, you should be able to do that. And what you have to do is make one like a response variables and then one categorical the treatment, and it should contain each of the treatment factors. So let's look at how it is supposed to be done. You can do it like this. The response here, which have the measurements, we have 4 for the control, 4 for the preheated, and this. With this, you can save your data in a TXT file. You can save it in any data. It can be like a CSV file before you actually import it. So basically, this is how a good the data is supposed to be before you actually import it into R. Now let's go back to our screen and see now as if we have been able to do that. Now let's look at how we can actually import data and then see how best we can handle all this kind of stuff. So so for example, you have a data. Now let's look at how to actually do that. Maybe we have a data, and the data is called words. So you want to do that. So let's say we call the data worms. Then the best thing is to use the read.table because it is a TXT file. So read.table, and the data is called what? Worms. Worms .txt file. The file extension is txt, and then we use the header here to see whether it has the names of the columns or not. So this one, it has a name of the column, so we say true. So we run it. Once you have been able to run it, now you can view the data. If you want to view the data, we use the view function, and this is how we do that. So the view function. So the view, then we call the wins. So you view it so that you can view everything very, very clear over here. Very, very, very nice. Like the way I showed you. So now, after you have been able to do that, now there is something called an attach function. And this attach function will help you to make the variable accessible by the name within the R section. So we use this, we have the attach and the detach. So if you don't want it to be accessible, then you use the detach function. So you use the attach function to call for it. Now, when you call for any of the data in when you call for any of the variables in this data, it will just show. That is how it is done. And we can also use the detach function. So the detach, this is how it is done. Detach, then you say wins, and it detaches it, but we don't need it now. So let's reattach it again. So we attach it. Now, if you want to show the first list, like if you want to show the first observations of the data, so we use this call head. So the head, then you call for the wins, then you run it, and it gives you the first observation. If you want to look at the last observation, we use the tail function. Then we say tail wins. Then you run it, and then it gives you the last 6 observations of the data. So another thing that you want to do is, if you want to show the list of all the variable names, we call something names. So we call it, and then this is how it is supposed to be done. Names of the wins. So you can see all the names over here. Very, 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 very nice. Now, if you want to look at the entire data, you can also, another way you can do it is to just call the names, WIMS, and then you run it, and it's going to give you all the observations. So nice. You see everything over here. Very, very nice. Now, if you want to look at the summary of the data, you use something called a summary. So the summary, and it is going to summarize all the continuous variables and then the categorical variables, but it wouldn't give you much details about the categorical variables. So let's look at it. When you run that, you can see that the field names, it has, the length is 20, and the field names is this. Look at it, the field name. This is the field name. Their character, and then the mode is this. Area is just a continuous variable, so it gives you the minimum value, the first quantile, the median, the mean, the third quantile, and the maximum, which is very, very nice. The same applies to everything over here. Very, very, very nice. So I think this is all we need to know about data frames. In our next there is also another, like, we will go much into details, but not now. This is not much important. That is, maybe if you want to fit models using the by function, but I mean, this is not what we are doing right now. We would look at more into that. So I think this is all we need to know about the beginning of the data frames. Now, in my next video, I'm going to talk about how to use subscripts and indices. So watch out for it, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you.